Hey everyone. Since my internet seems to be being reliable enough to do some vids, I thought I'd do something to catch up on time. Also, been touching on the subject of complications of ego, love, and incompatibility with neurotypical brain chemistry and psychology. Alright, so a lot of people have said to me that love is illogical. I don't believe this. To be honest, I think there's things we fall in love with, but that's romanticism. And the truth is, romance is a concept. It's kind of like the flirting idea of something enticing. Well, this is my understanding of what romance is actually about. Now, romance does have some illogical parts because in romance you are making the story in your head about the situation and what's happening, and the story gets emphasized by what's actually happening. So there's real emotions under that and real actions that are causing this love that's building within your idea of the romance with that person. But at the same time, you're putting stories in there, you're telling yourself something. And whether it's accurate or not depends on how much you actually fall into letting yourself tell your stories. Emotions are just an emphasis on that. So, back onto the logicalness of love. I don't believe there's that much illogical in it at all. There's always an underlying truth because what is it? What's that saying? The best lies have a grain of truth in them. And that's the same about the stories we tell ourselves. We can't start them without a basis of truth, a basis of something we've attached to the situation. Don't mind me in my rocking chair. I love it. Welcome to my kitchen, by the way. And it's such a beautiful sunny day that I felt enticed to actually do a convo. Alright, so let's look at some basics and some facts. There is no illogicalness to the love I have for my family and my two brothers and my mum and dad. If you break it down, the truth is my brothers have always been who they wanted to be around me. They've never put on a show, never tried to be anything but who they are around me. And that lack of ego buffer, let's call it, the fact that they treated me the way they thought they should have treated me when they did, whether it was good or bad in each situation, they've always been that kind of honest to me. So I've always seen them for who they were. And I think I actually see them a bit better than they think they see themselves. And I've loved them for that. I've loved them for the bits they've been bad at, the bits they're getting good at, and I've been all accepting in that. And the simple fact is, I've connected better to them than a lot of people, and I think that's helped a lot because my mum was such a good diplomat within the family. Anyway, so there's going to be some illusions in that those relationships with my brothers. There's going to be things I thought were true that aren't, because I've told myself stories in the past, and the thing about the subconscious mind is it's very gullible. So I could have told myself a few things that aren't very correct, but over the years I've grown with them and spent a lot of time with them because I'm actually best friends with one of my brothers and I'm really good friends with the other one. So I get along with them very well. And I actually work with one of them for money, which helps me. Uh, Not often though. And they've been very supporting, loving, and considerate. So there's obviously a bit of a romanticism in there because I've obviously made myself some illusional stories, but the fact is it's all based on the truth and the way that I've seen them, and I think that's why I can get along with them so well is because there's no shallowness in the relationship, so to speak. There is in a way, but what I'm trying to say is I connect straight to them with no ego buffer, no protection, because they don't need to be protected from me. They know they trust me and they can get along with me. And I feel the same about my parents. Like me and my dad butt heads quite often, but at the end of the day, we still have the understanding that we both love each other. And that's just our personalities clashing because he has a lot of stuff to deal with, and I don't put up with that stuff. I never have. And I've always loved him because he's always been a supporting part of the family. He's always tried as well. Never quit on trying to understand me, though it's not something he's actually good at. He's terrible at it. But I bet that there's things he understands about me that I don't know. And so there's just that realness there without the ego in a lot of ways. Also, I wanted to make clear that when I'm talking about ego, I'm just talking about some certain traits that I can't label because I don't have a word to label them. I'm not saying I'm void of ego and I'm always methodical like this. I've obviously got some defensive traits in ego that do pop up. I know that they pop up with my dad. I get a little over defensive sometimes because he's very critical of stuff and he's got very high expectations on himself, which he then puts on to us. And I try not to buy into that, but I've had to learn a self-defense mechanism before I could understand what I was doing, so I could do it. So there's obviously some ego traits there. I want to make that clear. Um, but there's a lot missing, so to speak. It's like they didn't need to be there for me, but for others to connect with me, it's a lot more difficult because of the lack of reaction when they upset me or um, my stubbornness in some ways, which is not stubbornness, it's just me being me because I choose not to influence others. I've got a saying actually that I abide by, and I believe this to be very, very true. Give me a minute, I'm just looking it up so I can tell you. It's one of my favorite bits of wisdom. Okay, influences. You have the influences only on your own destiny. You cannot influence or change that of others. This wisdom has several meanings, but the one it is trying to explain to you is that you need to let go of others around you and concentrate on your own destiny. When you let go of trying to shape the destiny of those around you, you will truly know peace and happiness. As you gain the confidence and ability to shape your own to shape and form your own destiny, once you have formed your own destiny, those that you wish to be around you will be as you will naturally attract those you desire. Now, I completely agree with this. You cannot, no matter how much you try, you can never totally influence someone. Someone's always their own being. Like, conditioning is subversion, but the truth is, the real soul of that person's still under there, under in any kind of conditioning, any kind of manipulation and influencing. There's still a real person under there that will break through eventually, given enough time. It basically, if we look into history, we see that obviously slavery never worked at it. It's because we were trying to force other people to do something we wanted to do. It was never going to continue to work. It was never going to be accepted either because without the whole populace accepting it, I'm including the slaves in this abbreviation, um, it was never going to be okay because even if let's just talk about the American slavery problem when it was. Just for an example, basically, even though the white man was suppressing the black man, the spirit of the black person was still there. And once things got into a routine, their desires and self strength actually came out more and more. And it came into a proximity effect because you're affected by people's emotions around you. And so the fact that they were being mistreated and everyone knew it was wrong deep down would constantly be bleeding into the emotional effect of the mirror neurons into the white person who was being the dominator. And eventually there became people who became more sympathetic to their plight because The fact was they could actually empathize with the slaves. They could see that it was wrong, and everyone knew it was wrong. They just were being greedy and egotistically driven because having someone to do something else for you makes you feel strong, makes you feel like you're better. It's really kind of annoying, I think, that so many fears can cause so much actual pain like that and cause bad decisions like that. I think we really need to make sure we're not making decisions based on fear. That's my own whole philosophy of life, actually. And base it on the pure energy of just having something right or justified, or I'll get into that later. But I feel that where was I going? Damn it, I lost it. But yeah, so can you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that in the end of it all comes down to the real self and making the decision either on fear or pleasure, uh, positive, I guess. Not really sure what to call that side of it, but it's really important, I feel, for people with Asperger's, especially, to be able to discern this interest, this drive, because what we're starting to understand is that when we bend to other people's wills and influences, we start losing ourselves. And that just takes us into a very twisted direction and it causes all kinds of problems. Frankly, I think it makes you more stupider to actually bend to another person's, not stupid, less of a person, because you're literally fragmenting in your own soul. You're taking it away from the real part of you by acting on decisions that are just keeping you um, where other people want you. Honestly, I'm quite proud of people who break away from the pack and think for themselves. Even though it's a fair bit more lonely, it's a much more positive step, I believe, because once you learn to be yourself and be on your own, you can truly support and love others, and I think that's pretty sweet. Hell, I'm planning on going on a trip just for 2 weeks by myself, just along the coastline surfing, just so I can really come back in touch with myself just for the summer. I like to do these kind of things every now and then. Actually, self imposed exile and to really make sure my perspective's not become skewed. Because even though being around people is a good thing and it's very positive and it's fun and you have a great time with them, sometimes you really need to put yourself out of the way and make sure that you're not learning bad traits or not taking things on that are obscured and bad. I know that a lot of things, kind of like racism, for example, there is a little bit of racism in Australia, but I don't see it that much. And I found that when I've actually been around people who were racist, the way they treated it made me feel like it was acceptable, and I was actually disgusted at myself for that. And so I've really liked to take these time out so I can kind of work this out for myself. Oh, wow, this video is going to be a bit about everything, hasn't it? I guess I've mostly been talking about sense of self, really. It's amazingly important for every human being, and yet we get so sucked into games and computers and entertainment and media and being passionate and romantic about stuff that we don't take the time to stop and just see how beautiful our own person and our own sense of self is. Really. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I'll probably do another one today as well. I'm playing catch up. I got all this stuff in my head and it's all coming out at once. Alright, see you guys.